What's up everybody? Today I'm going to be telling you about my Atomic Hawx Ultra HD boots. They are 115 flex. I bought last year's version, so I have about 150 days-ish on them. Mostly resort skiing, but plenty of boot packing as well. Really love hikes. Always looking for a fresh line in the back bowls. I tried on several boots with my boot fitter before these, but I have an extremely narrow heel. Since I've stopped dancing, my arches have also fallen just a bit. But in general, I have a narrow foot and they were not doing well in the Dalbellas that I had, which also happened to be 2 sizes too big, so go figure. Dalbellas are kind of meant for folks with wider feet anyways, and I've had those boots since I was 16, so they were extremely packed out, and I figured it was time to upgrade. I will say, if you are looking for a cheaper recreational boot and have wide feet with an athletic calf, Dalbellas could be a great place to start looking, but Atomic makes also a wide version of this boot. I'm like a huge proponent for Atomic. I love these. Anyways, let's just get to the review. First off, these boots are so light. It isn't the lightest on the market apparently, but I'm not complaining at all. I know a ton of female patrollers wear these in my area, and it probably makes their job a lot easier since there aren't like bricks strapped to their feet. It does make my job as an instructor easier because I do click out of my skis on beginner lessons a lot, so walking around easily is important. And like I said, I like boot packs, so that's the walking part. And honestly, I could even run in these. They do have that Gripwalk. Take these off. And they do have like a curved toe and a slightly curved heel, which is awesome. So it makes it easier for you to walk. And the Gripwalk basically just means that it has more stuff on the bottom of the boot to help you grip to the snow and ice that you're walking on most of the time. Anyways, yeah, I wear these and I work at a shop as well, and I'm pulling these rental boots off the shelf, and one rental boot is like 3 times the weight of this one, or at least it feels like that, because I'm like pulling it off and I'm like, oh my god, it's heavy. So the plastic shell is super light and super thin, and it's all moldable 100%, even the tongue, which is kind of a newer concept, I think. And not all boots have the option for you to mold the tongue, and then you get this pinching. I do notice it in customers in rentals that have bigger calves, that the tongue just doesn't fit around the front of their shin very well, and then it creates pinching. And like, there's nothing we can do about that because they're rental boots. But if you're buying your own boots, having the front part of your boot molded to your calf and to your shin is like super important, in my opinion. So I know that the shell is reinforced in the places that matter the most. It says on the back here, energy backbone. So I think there's like a carbon fiber like reinforcement somewhere back here. I think that what they did really works super well for them, but I think that there is one problem in the tongue, and I do believe that it's because that they made it the same plastic as the rest of the boot, which is very light and very thin, and they needed to be able to mold it to your shins. But over time, after I put on my boots over and over again, and you're like pulling up and out, it's ripped the keyhole inside the tongue, and I'll include a picture because I can't really show it very well. And it hasn't really affected my performance that much, but it has softened at the ankle anyways, just because they're so broken in. And this definitely does not help because it's around that ankle bone where it has ripped, and sometimes the plastic on the top part kind of like overhangs the bottom, and I can feel it like kind of click a little bit sometimes. So it's kind of a problem, but I mean, that is a very minimal problem for how many pros this boot has. And again, I've ridden these for about 150 days. It probably took 3 months until I noticed they started ripping in that area. I did apply for a warranty, so we'll see what happens. Maybe they'll fix it. Maybe they'll send me a new like insert somehow. I don't know. I've never tried warranting my boots, so this is gonna be a first, and we're gonna experience it together. I'll let you guys know how it goes. But my boot fitter did suggest that instead of pulling up and out on my boots in the future, to pull them to the side. It's something new that he's learned too. It still does open your boot enough for you to get your foot in there, but maybe doesn't put as much pressure on that keyhole area. So the toe box on these boots is supposed to be one of the warmest on the market, and maybe it's just me. Actually, it is just me. My toes are always cold anyways, so I am not the greatest. I don't have the best opinion for that. I would trust what they say. I'm even cold in snowboard boots, so, but it's a good selling point. One thing I will say that these boots have never given me blisters or any pain pretty much, except when we were experimenting a bit, like where to put tape to lock my heel in and my ankle and stuff like that, but that wasn't the boot, that was just like us experimenting. I did have to get a pocket blown out for my pinky toes later in last season, and I started growing this awesome callus on my heel, both of them actually, and they're like twins, they're in the same spot, and it is from skiing, so that kind of created a point of pressure for me, so we had to just basically blow out a little hole in my liners. They do have a walk and ride mode, so this is ride mode, this is walk mode. It's super easy to open and close, even in mittens, which I wear a lot. I've seen other boots that have like a small little like lever up here or something, and it sucks. And I don't like the way that is because you have to take your gloves off, and sometimes it's way too cold to do that. I've also seen like smaller, like I will just call it a flap. It's basically the same system, but it's like about this big. The only thing is that if you don't already have AT bindings and you're planning on uphill skiing a bit, that these are unable to be engaged or flipped in normal bindings because it gets in the way, basically. And then when you're in walk mode, there are like these two little cages around the two top buckles. You basically just pop these out, and you're in walk mode basically, and then this strap can become looser, right? So you're not inhibiting your walk movement. Okay? So it's nice that they have this little cage on top, because then this isn't like flapping around, whereas if it didn't exist, like this would happen. It protects your buckles from breaking too, obviously, which you don't want to do because then you can't ski. So yeah, that's what that kind of looks like on the side, and you're engaged in walk mode. It says frictionless pivot, and it is quite frictionless. I don't have any problems with like clicking or like something inhibiting me from being in that walk mode, which is awesome. They engineered it really well. The amount that you can push forward is pretty awesome for a hybrid boot, but it still isn't actually the same as a touring boot. But for someone who wants to combine like uphill or just now getting into uphill and resort skiing, and maybe you make like 1 or 2 touring trips a year, you can still manage in here. Like I mentioned before, I wear the 115 Flex. They have a 95 and a 115 in the women's, and then a 120 and a 130 for men. But remember that when you buy a hybrid style of boot, they are actually just a little bit softer because of that walk mode than what they are labeled as. So my 115 was probably like a 105 or 110 out of the box. And then over time, it has dropped even more since I've packed them out and broken them in. Overall, I think they're an amazing boot with some room for improvement, but absolutely worth it and an amazing piece of engineering. In my opinion, if you're tight on funds and can't afford a whole new setup, like skis, poles, all the things, and want to start somewhere, ball out on the boots. The boots are so important because your feet are so important for your skiing, and if you have the luxury to be able to get to a boot fitter, or you're in an area that actually has boot fitters, I strongly recommend it because they're professionals at it. They'll get you the boot that fits best. You'll try on like 10 pairs of boots if you need to. These Atomics do come in narrow, which I have, regular, and a wide version, so they can almost work for anyone. But again, it's always best to try on a few pairs and see what actually feels best to you, because maybe a different pair of like Langs or Dalbellas will kind of just sing to your feet a little more. So good luck, and let me know if you have any questions, and I'll try to give you my best educated answer, and see you guys out there.